Hello everyone, Eric with OzoneTCG. Today we're taking a look at Gem Accessories' new Colors single deck box. This is the University Blue First Edition. So we're going to go ahead and compare this between one of my favorite deck boxes ever, the GameGenic Sidekick 100 Plus XL. This is the 2021 special edition with the gray and orange coloration here. We're going to kind of see how it compares. I think that this GameGenic box is objectively the best deck box on the market, especially for the price. It's under $30. I don't actually know the exact price. I purchased this one on sale from a retailer for, I think, $13. I mean, for $13, basically unbeatable. That's not the normal retail price, but if you can get it for that much, it literally cannot be beat. As far as this deck box, though, if it is, say $20, $25 normally, we're going to see how this one compares. So Gem came out with this on pre-orders. It was available on pre-orders, I believe, in June and or July. I remember Brandon, the owner of Gem, was giving these out at Nationals kind of as prototype and test runs to see how players like them. It comes with three things. Of course, it comes with the packaging, the box, the actual deck box itself, and a little plastic divider. This is inside. So this is, again, the University Blue. I think there were 4 or 5 colors on pre-release. Now, the one thing that I see straight up is the first edition. I'm not sure if there's going to be some kind of limited edition later on. I don't follow much of Gem Accessories too much. The products that are coming out ever since the introduction of the Weeb accessories. Basically, I wanted to have a functional deck box that was pretty minimal and that could compete with the GameGenic deck box for minimal space, no real art on there besides just a branded logo down here, and some kind of dice tray to include all my dice and other accessories, whether it be for Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. The one thing, again, with the first edition, I don't really like how there could be a potential limited edition. It seems like Gem is going for a more luxury look, so say Supreme and Louis Vuitton, where those products, they market themselves as luxury but aren't actually any better than most other brands. They all come from the same suppliers overseas, and that's just how they market themselves. People tend to buy into that hype just because they believe that marketing. It's very effective, I will say, and they do sell very well, obviously, because Supreme and Louis Vuitton have their own stores, especially in California, where Gem is located, the headquarters for Gem. Packaging, I'm going to take a look at the packaging, take a look at the deck box, the build qualities of both, and how it stacks up again with GameGenic, because I think this is the direct competitor, because this is meant for the more competitive player, just because of the build size, how it's marketed, and the price point at $29.99 before tax and shipping. So we're going to talk about the packaging first between the two. I do have a sealed version of the GameGenic deck box, which I will compare. We're going to talk about the actual Gem Accessories one first. Again, University Blue. So straight up from the packaging, I do like this window design here. It goes around to the side too, you guys can see, so you can see the box inside. The packaging. Some people keep the packaging, some people don't. I do, simply because I like the way a lot of these packages are designed. The front is pretty good. I wish there wasn't a drop shadow here. It makes no sense to have this kind of shadow running along the edge. Just makes it look a little messy. This is a very early 2000s design. We don't really use that in the modern time of 2022. Good logo. Print quality is pretty good. This is actually, it looks like it's Futura in either oblique or italic font. Exact same font that Supreme uses. Probably exact same angle as well. And again, just kind of mimic that. Take a look at the other side. So you can see the colors, TCG Deck Box 100 Plus. Not sure what these colors are supposed to be. I don't think Gem has ever really used these before. This looks more like a GameGenic thing. GameGenic uses very similar colors on the side, but at least it does tell us some of the features, which tends to be missing on a lot of TCG accessories, but most people tend to know what they are. So, protect and hold 100 double sleeve trading cards, impact and slip resistant outer shell material. It looks like it's a pleather or leather, maybe hopefully vegan or cruelty free. I'm not actually sure. A magnetic wrap around lid to keep everything inside safe. Flip down dice tray built into each deck box. So not great copy, but it's serviceable at the very least. Take a look at the back. So this is where a lot of copy is supposed to go, and you're supposed to really have the features on the back. I'm not going to drill too much into the actual packaging design for this, though, because it is a newer part of the products. So designed by It's their slogan, designed by TCG players for TCG players. You can see all the copy around here. Looks like this is, let's see, I'm not actually sure which font this is. It's not too bad, but the ink has already started to rub off a little bit. Kind of hard to see on your end, but my end, yeah, it's not great. So colors, innovative design makes it a must-have for deck box use for local events or simply protecting your deck. Utilizing a suede line single tray design allows the colors deck box to hold 100 double sleeve cards. Wish they would specify standard because generally you design for standard, even if you're marketing towards Yu-Gi-Oh players, which is what Gem Accessories tends to do. You want to make sure to not alienate that market in general. You want to make sure that, hey, these will fit your standard sizes, not just for Yu-Gi-Oh. Because if it fits double sleeve standard cards, it'll fit double sleeve Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Even if there's extra space, that's absolutely fine. In addition, a flip down dice tray keeps your favorite dice organized and within reach. Durability is also important in deck box, and colors does not miss its mark. They don't tell you how. They just say it doesn't. I don't believe that, just from any marketing standpoint. The inner shell is impact resistant and wrapped in non-slip material to keep the box in your hands or on the table. So, don't know if that's entirely true. This will slide around a little bit, but not too much. I won't fault it for that. Really, you're not going to have it slide around too much. It's basically, do you like the way the material is on the front? So, other side just has a QR code for Gem, and bottom has, of course, manufactured designed in California. Designed, probably should have been checked over. Manufactured in China, so it's clearly the Chinese manufacturers. Their designers are the ones who are coming up with the copy on the bottom. That's pretty standard too. Again, has the same thing on the top. I wish they would just keep the windowed open design. Let's go ahead and compare this to the GameGenic deck box. And so for a very similar price point, you can see the Sidekick 100 XL kind of has a similar theme going with a smaller window. However, it's hard to see on the inside, but there's actually right down here inside the box, this little white spot right here, that's actually half of a box holding this gray deck box inside. There's also one on the top section, even harder to see because of the angle. But you can see here they are going for the window. They don't have that side windows design, but this the packaging itself feels much more premium, and it has the gradient and foil look. You can see everything on here. It's not just marketing. Here's what I was talking about with those colors. You kind of see these colors on the side of Gems, and it tells you all their features as well. A little bit smaller copy, a little bit easier to read, honestly, but I won't go into too much there. It has different languages because GameGenic tends to be a European company. I think they were founded somewhere in the European Union, but it also shows you with actual renders of the deck box what you can do with this. Now, I don't know if these are, to scale for the actual product. The opening, where you hold the cards, the little thumb marks. I don't know if these are this big, but it is good to see that they are on here. At the very least, I wish Gem would show kind of some pictures on here. Otherwise, I mean, these are pretty standard. I don't really see any spelling mistakes just from reading it on the side. So let's go ahead and get back to Gem's deck box and open up the actual box itself, and we'll go and see what it's like. So just from opening it, it's really hard to open this magnet front sometimes. This is actually bending right here. You guys can see I'm not even able to open it until I apply more force. So the way these deck boxes work is that and a lot of them do it. I hate to say it. I don't like this design. Ultimate Guard did it for a while. Ultra Pro caught on to it. And now most deck boxes use this kind of design. A lot of manufacturers in China tend to use this as a standardized design. I don't really care for it. I think the approach to have a removable front cover is a little bit better. Makes it a little bit easier to move the deck box around, position it depending on where you are on a table, or if you don't really have space on a table, it's also just smaller overall. You can see it's a fairly basic deck box. I do like the difference between the outer and the inner shell. However, the build quality and some of these materials are not great. You can see these are flexing already, and this is with, I will barely apply force. You can see it already wiggles just a little bit, just these sides. You can also see that these aren't glued in all properly stitched together. There's supposed to be a stitch line, which obviously you can see the stitch lines here, but there's also supposed to be glue inside to hold everything together. So instead of having these open corners, in the end, as you can see right here, they're supposed to be pushed together even more. that usually indicates that the design stage, so whoever made the original model, whether it be Brandon, one of his designers, someone else he paid, to design this, it was not scaled properly. All the edges were not scaled together, measurements were not taken, and measurements were not necessarily followed. It is really hard to work with this pleather, fake leather material, as well as suede interior. But generally speaking, you want to try and get these measurements as close as possible. Again, I know it's hard to, especially with these, but usually it means that a sample wasn't ordered, or not enough samples were made, or there wasn't enough of a design process and scrutinizing each sample enough, providing enough feedback. That's usually where the disconnect is, because Chinese manufacturers are very reliable in the products they create. I have experience with this myself. I actually work for a company that does very similar things with a different market entirely. But they are very reliable. They can be. It's ultimately up to the original designer, so usually the overseas designer, to make sure that these are passing their own quality standards. In this case, Gem is designing these products, not really enforcing a quality standard, it seems, just from here. This can easily come apart. Honestly, if you put just a little bit of force on here, you guys can already see this is starting to move apart entirely, so I don't really like that. Again, very, very flimsy interior material, so it does cost a little bit more to make it less flexible. Overall, I think it's worth it for the cost, so I wouldn't necessarily use this for heavier cards if I'm playing a lot of foils, or for an expensive Magic deck. I know this can fit an EDH deck, a double-sleeved EDH deck for Magic. I'm going to actually test it out with my own Pokemon deck right now. Just pull this out, and so this is my Lost Zone Giratina deck for Pokemon. These are double-sleeved. I use Ultra Pro interior sleeves, inner sleeves, and Dragon Shield dual matte outer sleeves, the Ocean variety. So this is 60 double-sleeved. You could probably fit, again, a little bit more than 40 in the side. Not really sure if there's a sideboard in EDH. I don't play Magic at all. But it does fit, so that's not the problem of if your cards are going to fit. Generally speaking, that's never really an issue anymore. Early 2000s we saw that, but with these new kind of cloth or leather or suede deck boxes, the size is not really an issue. It's the design and some of the extra features you can have built in. You can also see the magnets. So there's one right here. You guys can kind of see the outline right around here. There's one magnet here, and then there's another one down here that connects to the front. So the front of the deck box right here and right here, you can see them way more pronounced on the front of this the leather front. You can also see the connecting line. So where this flap runs around, you can see exactly the thin piece of leather. Again, pleather, I don't know what it is. I'll just refer to it as leather from now on, or pleather. This thin layer, it's probably about 1 millimeter thick, and the interior is probably 2, maybe 2.5 millimeters. Generally the standard to make it thick enough. Outer shell needs to be at least 2.5, inner shell needs to be at least 2.5 as well, for a total of 5 millimeters in thickness. It usually is the standard to provide adequate or optimal protection for your cards. And of course, the dice tray does come out. It is a cool feature. I don't personally like the tray feature, that it comes out like this, especially if you're already taking up a bunch of table space. I mean, this is probably about a foot of table space, just horizontally. Vertically, you're probably looking at about half a foot, maybe 8 inches or so, a little bit less than 8 inches. When you're taking this out. So if you have this unwrapped, I would prefer to have this to just come out like this, be able to do this easily. It kind of does, but it really doesn't in that case. You also don't want to bend these at all, because these are extremely flimsy. So I'm just, curving these around just a little bit. Very easy to curve this overall. It looks like a piece of paper about to be shredded. I would not want to use this for quality, especially for a fold-out tray cover like this. So if it were removable, I wouldn't mind as much, but because it's attached to the deck box and it is the only way to keep it on the deck box, it also provides as the base of the deck box and holds the dice tray together, really is not good enough for build quality. The materials seem to be a little bit flimsy for this. There's not enough padding within, and the bonds between here aren't strong enough to really hold that all together consistently. So the dice tray is held together by a single flap that runs into the bottom of the deck box base to be able to hold everything together. I mean, even this part, even the bottom of this, the main deck box, probably is its own bottom, but looks like it is, just from looking inside, it is stitched to here, so that's a plus. Still feels flimsy even in that regard, and there's just the one. I do like the smoothness of this leather. So, and then of course when you open up the dice tray, there are a bunch of points where failure can occur. So whether that be something tearing off, I mean, again, this one bends just the exact same way. This point right here, so the bond between the deck box base and the dice tray is easy to sever. It's easy to sever this point where the flap and the base of the deck box meet. This point, this point, this point, and this point, really easy to sever at any time. If someone, not that anyone's going to really damage it, but if I took a knife to this and cut it, it would probably cut off very easily. And the entire thing would be kind of ruined, honestly, because if you sever any of this, the whole thing will fall apart, except for the side like that, because there is a single magnet you guys can see here, here, and here, which is good. These magnets tend to be pretty strong. Now, I will talk about the standard shake test that someone like Tulare Community College professor performs. I will try that with this deck. I want to be kind of careful because it's a newer deck, but we're going to try it. Don't take shake tests as gospel whatsoever, but it is an important thing just to try out for deck boxes to see how they function. Now, I know this one already. I've performed it a couple of times. The magnets are very strong and will hold the entire thing together. I don't recommend, of course, doing this with your own cards. It's just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, your cards will be safe in there, and even this is really hard to get out sometimes. But they'll be safe. They might, if you're double sleeving, some of your cards may, shuffle to the top like this. You guys can see there's very little space between the cards. You just push those down, and they should be good. That will happen if you do a shake test, but overall, your cards are going to be protected from just being thrown out by the deck box. If this drops on the floor, I'm sure they will hold on the inside. But the actual build quality materials, again, for paying $30 for this, I don't think I would recommend this. I also forgot to mention the front of the deck box, a little embroidered. Logo is quite nice, but it does actually come out a little bit too much to where you can see it is not flush with the side. So if you were to put a piece of wood right here, it would be a little bit crooked, simply because this is not completely lying flat. So yeah, something I would like to see a little bit different, even it's printed on. The embroidered logo is cool. Not really sure if it's the best thing to do for this kind of build. You can also really kind of push it in. I'm barely using any force. You can see this being pushed in. Also, another thing, if you keep the dice tray out, say, during a match, I think this would be acceptable while you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. Pokemon uses a lot of dice, Yu-Gi-Oh! Not so much. You can keep this out, which is nice, but you can't put this back in this way. There's no way to physically do it without making a space above, again, because this is always going to be larger, or just reduce the size of the dice box so that it does fit in here like that. Hard to do without actually forcing it in. Overall, I don't know if I could recommend this over just the standard GameGenic Sidekick from here, a Sidewinder box like this compared to, GameGenics here. This does move in some ways. Of course, there are also 5 points here, and you can see this. The corners tend to bunch up just a little bit, but honestly, for a cheaper deck box, a less expensive deck box that is, with much thicker walls and more magnets to hold everything together, I think that overall the GameGenic one just is better value. Even though it doesn't have the dice tray, which some people value, I don't personally. I am working on a deck box that does something similar to both of these, but has the durability of GameGenic. Overall, if I had to give a rating to compare the GameGenic, so GameGenic, again, is the standard in, I would say, basically every single kind of deck box. If I had to compare this one, I would give this an A+. Again, this is the golden standard if you want to always have a reliable deck box that will always protect your cards, rarely ever fail, you go with GameGenic. That's basically how it's always going to be. Tillerian Community College, again, has done a bunch of reviews on it too. However, compared to that A+, I would give, this GameGenic, the Gem Accessories deck box probably a C or a C+. The colors are nice. The stitch quality overall is quite nice. There are some loose threads, but the build quality and many points of failure are negatives. Another positive is that the magnets are very strong. I have no doubt that this will hold, your EDH commander deck. You can shake it around without having any issues. I have, no qualms about that. That's a fantastic feature. And just my preference is that it's a little bit too thick. I, again, prefer the minimal deck box, but some people like this kind of deck box. It's almost square. That's how it is. But yeah, overall, I would say this is a C+ compared to GameGenic's A+. Let me know what you guys think about this. If you guys have used this, or if you guys used other Gem Accessories deck boxes before. I'm going to continue testing some of these boxes. We'll see what other kind of boxes they have in the future. And as always, thank you for watching.